Good morning, it's Toraph Moses. It's Monday, June 29th, 2020. Another beautiful day here in the city. I decided to do another meditation today, and we will just surrender to the 0 point, current now moment, and see where our meditation takes us. To aid us in our meditation, I have my selenite wand. It's great for protection. It acts as an etheric sword as well, and I'll be using it to channel my perceived higher self. I also have my chunk of ember. It's great for transmuting energies and protection. And I have my two stones here, the love quartz or the rose quartz, and my amethyst. These will be our protection stones to help bring in and channel more positive love energies and protection. So before we start, I should say, I'd like to call on my people out there, the Toraph and True Benevolent Source, to monitor, I should say, and safeguard this transmission, channel, and meditation. Thank you. Before we start, I would like to also bless our water, and I'll be using my chunk of amber, and we're just going to bless this water, remove any unwanted poisons, toxins, and balance this water into a healing property. And we're just going to drink it and cleanse out our system and remove what no longer serves this 3D expression. That was called for. It's very warm. Of course, it's summertime, so it's all good. And I'm just going to clear my mind and call on the elements, and then we'll get started. Just going to hold on to these two stones. I'd like to take the moment to call on the element of fire, Helios the sun. We are grateful for you shining your cosmic rays of love and light to our planet. We ask to borrow your healing rays in conjunction with this candle burning bright, and we will utilize this flame as a ring of cosmic flame energy. We shape it into a sphere of cosmic fiery light to ward off any negative parasites that siphon and steal auric energy. I like to call on the element of the air, surf, gifting us the breath of life. Exhale in, exhale out. We are grateful for your cleansing our lung cavity and purifying our bloodstream with your air. Although the masses seem to take the breath of life for granted, not knowing its healing properties, its healing factor, now closed off by these masks. Which is the way to be. Hopefully, the people will learn the truth behind these false narratives. We ask to borrow the power of air. Utilize this as a dome shield in conjunction with the fire ring that I have previously created. I like to call on the element of the water. I have the Hudson not so far from my complex. The Hudson River that travels as far as Canada, all the way down to southern United States. I will utilize this water from the aquarium and will sample and create a dome of liquid water to add it to the other elements to strengthen the power of the elements. Thank you, water, air, and fire, for your participation in allowing us to sample these elements. I like to call on the element of the earth, our Earth Mother. We are grateful for nourishing and protecting and sheltering all life, all fauna and flora alike, and including beings of the surface world and beings in the inner earth, hollow earth, and beings throughout the oceans and the abyssal continental trenches. We all acknowledge and thank you, Mother Earth, and we will aid in balancing your heart and mind, your consciousness as one of order, creation, and balance. This meditation that I have requested has really no objective or outline. I decide to do these meditations as much as I can to hopefully connect, or will connect, to the higher self on a regular basis, to learn from us or to learn from it. It's a very complex way of thinking. Our human language or human terms and mindsets are limited to the grander cosmic way of doing and thinking and being. As I mentioned in our previous session, we have the human being known as Toraph Moses as the biological vehicle, the learning instrument, if you would say. Whereas we have the Oversoul, a cosmic entity of energy, etheric body, rather, built on unconditional love and from the true benevolent source. It left the true benevolent source billions and billions and billions of years, unimaginable, uncomprehendable to the average person. There is no way to quantify this range. Finally, we have the learning soul, as this being calls it. This being, this oversoul, is from the 10th dimension out there in the Boots Hercules constellation. This being is known as the Toraph. She identifies herself as female or feminine, a feminine energy that has been passed on throughout many lifetimes on this planet Earth, matrix grid. We are astonished and overwhelmed and surprised to learn of our true origins out there in the Boots Hercules constellation, and realizing or rediscovering our etheric body, mind, and consciousness as well. Many information has come from these beings of late, and this being known as Toraph Moses is slowly becoming to realize the grand design of space, consciousness, unity consciousness, of galactic and otherworldly. He's beginning to understand that the higher realms see things as one, although subdivided and multi-layered, multifaceted, still one. Whereas the lower realms see things too literally and figuratively, or rather just being. Sometimes you just have to let go and surrender to the universe and allow things to unfold in multiple timelines, in multiple ways, in multiple dimensions. If you open yourself to think outside of the box, you will see things for what they truly are, and many possibilities and probabilities that factor into a thought, decision making, etc. I'd like to take the moment now to call on my true, authentic spiritual self, the Toraph being within us. Although I don't know her name, and it's not important as mentioned, when the right time comes, we will disclose that, or it. I request my higher self, the learning soul, to step forward and give her status quo. I share and open up my heart space. I, as Toraph Moses, open up my heart space and share it with you. Please reciprocate this heart space. Thank you. I'm covered in this cocoon of gold energy, gold and yellow energy at the moment. Do you have anything to say to add to the status quo? I'm waiting for a response. He is correct, this being, this human, known as Toraph Moses. Many timelines, many dimensions are happening at once. Each individual must decipher and discern their own timeline and choose a fate that is in the best interests of their highest good and highest good only. Many choices will be offered in the next coming days, weeks, months, and years to the collective. Each of them will decide what's for their highest good or not. If left up to others to decide for humanity, let's just say they are beings that will make that decision for them as a collective, in terms of what they believe is for the highest good for the masses. This fact is true based on Toraph Moses' recent findings. Therefore, we urge each individual to reconnect with their higher essence, their higher self, find out who they truly are, In doing so, will help them make better choices. That is for their highest good, and their highest good only. No one can force you into a good or bad paradigm, although how base it sounds, there really is no such thing as good, bad, positive, or negative. Everything is what it is because it perceives itself as it. Again, discern what's for your highest good and choose what's right for you. Thank you for that. I would like to continue our learning process from you and my oversoul, the entity, this cosmic entity, and from you, from the Toraph point of view. But before so, I would like to take a sip of my water. I have dry mouth. I have to reconnect again. I ask my higher self, my Toraphian self, of following a series of questions as I did the other day. And I will ask I will only ask for what's for my highest good. And my question is, well, before I even make a question, I do have this to say. During our previous podcasts from the liftings, Christopher Stephen Jacobs and Joanna Michaels had a podcast topic on carrot on a stick. This being known as Toraph Moses, he wanted to question his father LaRoche this very same topic of the carrot and stick. In terms of the Galactic Federation or Confederation, however you describe it, have their own set of agendas and factions within its own body. And that body is for the highest good of the humans, or the total opposite of it. So I asked the Confederation of Worlds, do they also have factions, both positive and negative? Do they subscribe to this construct or concept of the carrot and stick? Therefore, is this being known as Toraph Moses and the learning soul, the Toraph female, being any way manipulated, conned into a mission that is not for our highest good? That is my question. I am waiting for a response from my female Toraph self. We understand many federations or co-federations or groups or a collective of cosmic beings are responsible for many quadrants of the universe, omniverse, super omniverse, and beyond. They all have a balance objective to maintain law and order for all of creation. Some organizations or agencies have their own agendas and responsibility for a sector or universe or system. Lower dimension, such as your 3D paradigm on the earth, yes, it is governed or managed by the Federation. Again, we don't see good and evil, wrong or right. We only see things for what it is, or what it's perceived as a collective or an individual. We do acknowledge and identify overage, an overage that can create unbalance, and we do acknowledge it, question it, and resolve it in that time, at one time. However, for the Confederation of Worlds out in the Boots Hercules constellation, we only want the highest good for our beings and our people and our collective and friends that share our solar system and quadrant. We are a harmonious quadrant, a unified quadrant, and we are a model for other quadrants, if you would say. So to answer your question, we do not subscribe to this carrot and stick. We ask you to only be your true, authentic self, always. Be your best, true self, always. And allow yourself free to do what it will, but not go against your nature. As this being is starting to realize, a creature's nature or a being's nature may be perceived if it's a hostile entity, but it's only being its true authentic self, because that's how it was designed and created, to be hostile, to feed on others. But for a lower dimension, such as your earth and your 3D paradigm / matrix, it is perceived as evil because it feeds and harms others to sustain its own life. However, if this example of this being is allowed to be on your earth and surpass the balance, then it would be considered an overage, and it would have to be removed, rectified, and resolved in that time, at one time. Thank you for that clarification. So you're saying that you disagree with this overage, right? Yes, we see and acknowledge this overage, this dark overage from your cabal factions and the factions of all, and factions out of planet as well. Thank you again for clarifying. My second question is, this being known as Toraph Moses had tons of questions set up in his mind, but now he cannot conjure them up on the spot. He will do his best to recall these questions in this current now moment. And I ask True Benevolent Source and the people of the Toraph to monitor and audit this transmission and channel, please. Thank you. My question is, this being known as Toraph Moses, I know we mentioned this before, but I'm going to restructure this. He is yearning to find validation of being accepted in this 3D dimension. He has spent his whole life trying to find acceptance of himself and from others, as most humans do. However, he's beginning to realize that the only acceptance he needs is from himself. He's allowed to relinquish his confidence, to dim his inner light, to make others comfortable. He's allowed to censor his voice and his sight in order to conform with society's rules, mandates, and ideologies. He always believed he was never good enough because he could not match what others were thinking, being, and doing, and having. He's slowly becoming to realize all of those are distractions. All of the mentioned are distractions, I should say. And that his true, authentic, spiritual, sovereign self outweighs anything of being and having, wanting and needing or becoming. He is already all of the above. He is reincarnated as this perfect being that he always has been dreaming of. For these examples, my question is, before I answer that, I have one more component. He's yearning, as I said, to return back with his people, the Toraph. I guess he's conflicted because he's lacking love, true unconditional love, on this paradigm known as the 3D. And he's become to realize that the fifth dimension, or the 5D consciousness, and if it ever becomes into a physicality for him, It is just another paradigm. Another paradigm that would not change from his 3D paradigm. He understands that he has to believe and want this change for himself and accept love for himself and become a beacon to attract love. So he's conflicted, as I mentioned, because he still has these attachments of a human way of thinking and being. He wants to transcend his human problems into another tier, another density, another dimension. But it is all the same from 3D to 5D if you already or still have this old way of thinking and being. My question is, will he find fulfillment in the 10th dimension, out there in the Boots Hercules constellation with his people, the Toraph, in this current now moment? Unconditional love transcends beyond borders of densities, dimensions, biological container or cages, as he calls it. If he has love in this current 0 point moment, he will always have love for the self and for others. But if the reason why he's conflicted, you see, is because he's subdividing what love is in terms of human terminology. That he has to first love himself, then love others, and then love everything. But you see, the love is just it. You're a being of unconditional love. Therefore, you don't need to subdivide or become anything, because you are just that, pure love. And wherever you go, or decide to go, or become, you will always be that unconditional love. It doesn't matter if you're in a lower realm, such as the 3D paradigm, or at the 13th dimension. You will always be what you are if you perceive yourself as it, and that is love. Will you find fulfillment with us in the Boots Hercules constellation? That is up to you. It won't change anything if you are still stuck on a 3D paradigm mindset. You have to let go of what no longer serves you. Shed off this needing, wanting, having, becoming, or need to be mindset. Just live in the current now moment. If you perceive yourself as love, as I said, you can go anywhere, at any time, and at any place. And you will feel love, and you'll feel your people always with you, anytime, anywhere. As hard it is for you to take it as I feel. That is the answer. Yes. It's very hard and difficult to understand. This human being known as Toraph Moses feels he has to escape and transcend his body and his human problems to another tier. But in actuality, it will just follow him. Am I correct? Yes. If he perceives that he still has baggage or problems, it will follow wherever he goes or chooses. Okay. You mentioned the other day that my mission, or rather my higher self or oversoul, the cosmic entity, mentioned my mission, or our mission, the learning soul and this biological vehicle, is to inspire others. Why then, if things are truly free, why am I given a task? I ask my higher self this question. You were not given a task. Your learning soul, the Toraph being that you are referring to, had always had free will to decide her fate. She volunteered to come to the 3D paradigm, as mentioned, to learn and experience through learning. She has always lived in her passions and always remained true to her authentic self, and remaining her true authentic self. In doing so, it inspired others. I see. The reason why we mentioned your tasks or your mission, in a way, it was for you are the biological vehicle, the learning vehicle. So, as she learns through your current modern day age, with all of its trials and tribulations, she too inspires through you, inspires others to think in a multi-dimensional way. In doing so, it helps them decide where they want to go or be. So you're saying, I'm talking to my higher self now. So you're saying that we have always been free to decide our passions, our ways of being and believing, thinking, and that we are never less than that. We aren't here to report to a higher being. We are just being ourselves and getting lost, although that's not a good word to use, in living our life in a designated timeline. Is that what you're saying? Yes, of course. You make every lifetime that you have reincarnated in was always giving free will to shape your own path. What you do with your own life is up to you, but it is all downloaded into the learning experience. Your oversoul, your learning soul, does not create a curriculum. It's actually the biological vehicle that creates their own vehicle, their own solutions and outcomes, their own problems as well. And through that process of experience and learning, it adds to or shapes the character, and it evolves this being, and it evolves us ultimately. And we share this knowledge and information to the rest of the collective from her designated quadrant, and I share this with the source, because we are all one. Thank you for clarifying that question and answering it. I have no more questions at this time, but I do thank you for clarifying any misconceptions from our last meditation session. And I'd like to take a moment to thank True Benevolent Source, the people of the Toraph, as well as my learning soul, the Toraph being, and my cosmic source self. I'd like to thank all the beings and entities watching this broadcast and channel. As I close this meditation, before I give my last statement, hold on. As I close this meditation, I would like to thank again all the beings that are present. And my final thought is those of you that are listening, do not doubt yourself. Continue to work on your inner work. And if you're able to achieve conversing or communing with your higher self, ask endless questions. And if the answers do not fit or does not resonate with you, restructure the question and get an answer that resonates. There is no right or wrong answer, mind you. It's all about your perception and mindset. If you're closed-minded, your answers will fit your mindset. If you are multidimensional and have an open mind and an open heart, your answers will reflect that. Everything is a mirror. Your reflection shapes who you are, and who you are shapes your reflection. I am Toraph Moses. Thank you for listening to the sound of my voice. End of channel. I'm still covered in this cosmic, rose gold flame, and mostly gold and yellow. That was a good one. I know, it kept on getting cotton mouth. But I would like to thank everyone taking the time to listen. Another long meditation, but it does take a lot of energy and time to get the right mood and energies going to tap into your higher self. So everyone is different in how they do things. Okay, bye.